Hello, my friends. Welcome in. It's another video about Fantasy Premier League. That counts as gaming, right? Like, I'm going to be mixing this stuff in because obviously it's highly relevant to my audience. It's not like the Venn diagram as a circle, but there's definitely a Venn diagram of people who watch Football Manager and people who play Fantasy Premier League. So hopefully you're enjoying this content. If you're new around here, go over there, hit that subscribe button. That kind of encourages me to keep doing stuff like this because I can see which videos got subscribers and obviously I can see which videos got likes and all that kind of stuff. So if you're enjoying it, let me know. So game week 5, this is going to be a video just on the results and kind of my thinking for game week 6 and beyond. But the reality is I can't really give you a game week 6 video. I have to practice saying game week because that's not a very common thing in my verbiage. I can't talk about game week 6 really until we get past the EFL Cup or the Carabao Cup or whatever the cup is that's happening in the week in case there's injuries or players unexpectedly play or don't play, those types of things. So I'll put out another video before game week 6, probably on Friday, so that you can get some insight into what I'm thinking there. I'm quite pleased. As you can tell here at the very top, I played my wild card. I had some people that said, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that in game week 5, which makes sense, but I want to walk you through my justification for it. But first, I want to point out, Craig Hadley in the comments said, essentially, the having my team's kit blank was triggering him. So Craig, I know you've been a subscriber for a very, very long time. I hope you're good. I'm trying to mimic. This is trying to mimic. There was a U.S. men's national team kit that looked like that, and they put the number in the middle. I kind of wish, I mean, I know you got to have a number, but like, I wish there was no number, like right in the middle. Like, put it on the back. Just give me the red and white stripes. It would have been lovely. So that's what we went. So I went with red, white, and blue. How about that? Rather than trying to mock up something for Liverpool. Anyway, we played the wild card. Here's my thinking, and I think it's actually been a smart play in my scenario. Partially, if you're playing a wild card that early, either something's gone horrifically wrong or you're not very good and you're trying to adjust. Which one do you think I think it is, my friends? Yeah, it's the second one. I should have planned better, but we're learning, and by paying attention to this, it's helping me learn for next season too. So let's go back and look at the squad we did have. Okay, so the changes I made were Wan-Bissaka, Dunk, Souček, and Dennis and Harrison and McCarthy from the bench. Now, here's why I ended up playing it, and it was on the deadline. It was at like 1:25 Eastern, which was, you know, I guess about an hour and a half before the Leeds game kicked off. When it came out that Harrison was out with COVID. Now, I told you in my last video that, you know, I was kind of hanging out going, Harrison gave us 18 returns last season, 8 goals, 10 assists. I do think he's still a value play. He'd already gone down to a 5.8. I didn't think he was going to drop any further. So I was like, you know, if I keep him around, he's a bench option until he starts producing. Because I look at this run of games, you know, fantastic. But then it came out that he's got COVID. So he's automatically out. And I was like, ooh, okay. So I already had Wan-Bissaka that I was planning on moving on eventually anyway. Souček has kind of disappointed. And I've missed a price drop because I sold him at 6.0. So that's been a plus of my wild card as I saved myself 0.1 there. And then Dennis is a fine option. Now you could argue, wow, you missed out on 6 points. We'll talk about it. Again, Watford, it's not like maybe here he might be a decent pickup to put back on the bench, but like, you know, it wasn't like he's the guy you're hoping isn't playing if you're playing a 2-striker system. So I've either been playing a 3-5-2 or 4-4-2, usually more of a 4-4-2 this season, which has been a little bit of a difference versus some of the experts. And then McCarthy was going up against Man City, which, you know, you go, well, that's not going to go well. And then he puts up 6 points, which is like, wow. Maybe Southampton's a little bit better than I was anticipating. He's not very highly owned, so it wasn't like I was avoiding a price drop or anything like that. But I think I'm still good with it because here's the deal, right? So I ended up with 63 points, so more than I was last season. I moved up in the rankings to 477th overall. What I meant to say there, obviously, was 477,000. Not 477th. This would be a much different video if I was in the top 477. Thanks. which was an increase, I think, of like about 10%. I have found livefpl.net, which shows you your live ranking. Like, it's like somebody has somehow figured out how to pull all the data from FPL and process it live and faster than like FPL does. So I'm sure it has something to do with the cloud. But I was 530,000th at least according to live FPL on my other monitor here. So I went up, at one point I was as high as like 277,000, but then we knew that wasn't going to last. But obviously, this doesn't look great. You play your wild card and you get 63 points, and really, like, you had 2 of the players that you brought in do well. Maybe 3. But when I look at the differential and I look at the long term, now you could argue it is risky, and I think this is me kind of going for it, to have 3 Wolves players on the back line, no less. So when they lose 2-0 to Brentford, that's not great. You're not going to put up a lot of points. But again, Southampton, Newcastle, most likely without Callum Wilson, although St. Maxen has looked fantastic. Villa, you know, obviously has scored some goals, but it has been kind of hit or miss, and that's away. Leeds scores a lot of goals, but like also concedes goals. You know, other than it's kind of Everton as a forward. Everton's got a lot of injuries too, right? So like, this is a lovely run of games in general. Okay, Semedo and Marçal more attacking, so the wingback options. Now, of course, after they conceded, they went to like a 4-3-3, which meant they weren't as attacking. So this may have been blowing up in my face. And the creme de la creme at the very end is Connor Cody was going to sub in for Trent, who's also out with illness, hopefully not the C word. And Cody at the very, like the 91st minute or something like that, gets a yellow card. And so it goes from having 1 point to none. But, my friends, so we bring in Ramsdale, we bring in the 2 Wolves wingbacks, Rafinha, Doucouré, Bamford, and that's it. But I go, okay, bringing in Ramsdale, even though McCarthy put up a 6 against Man City, unexpected, Ramsdale put up a 9. So that's a +3 in my direction. Now, you could argue, and I'm kind of hoping, honestly, that this price goes up. He's not held very often. So apparently what drives this price increase is people buying the player, which makes sense, right? So I don't know. I couldn't tell you. You'd have to watch more experts about, like, is it 10% or is there a pickup at 5% and then 10%? I don't know. But I'm thinking that surely Arsenal didn't bring him in to not play him. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get every single game. I'm sure it's a competition, but there's a pretty good run of games here. And what I think I said this in the last video, the run of games contrasts very, very well with Sanchez. So, for example, game week 6, Sanchez, Crystal Palace, Ramsdale, Tottenham. I'm going to put Sanchez at Crystal Palace, even though they've looked pretty good. But Sanchez, I think, is a more trusted save option. The next game is actually Sanchez versus Ramsdale in the game. I would probably go Ramsdale. I'll have to decide to see, I guess, maybe how they do against Tottenham to see how much I believe in the Arsenal defense. But Brighton has been pretty solid defensively. Surprisingly, at one point, they were 2nd in the league, you know, which is, are they still 2nd in the league? No, they're 4th, but Brighton, I mean, no, it's early, right? It's 5 games in, but like, fair play, right? But this is where I've got a spreadsheet. Maybe I'll pop this up here where you can see it. But as you can see there, right? So game week 8, Sanchez has Norwich. Fantastic game. Ramsdale has Crystal Palace. Not bad. If he has to, if for some reason Sanchez doesn't play, I'd be fine with having Ramsdale come in. Okay, the following week, game week 9, Sanchez has Manchester City. Guess what? I don't want him playing them. Aston Villa versus Ramsdale, who, even though they scored some goals recently, I'd rather take that than Man City. The following game, Sanchez has Liverpool. Ramsdale has Leicester, who honestly haven't looked that great in the attack. Okay, game week 11, you can have Newcastle or Watford, depending on who you want there, right? Game week 12, Aston Villa versus Liverpool. We'll take Sanchez against Aston Villa. So, like, I feel like they go together very well, and I'm honestly hoping that some more people pick him up, and his price goes up, and then I can sell him and go back to McCarthy or somebody else. Same thing when you look at the Wolves players, right? So, like, let's just pull up their schedule again. Southampton, Newcastle, Villa, Leeds, Everton, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Norwich, Burnley. Again, some of those you're going to expect some goals. against Wolves. But so you're not going to bank on all clean sheets. I'm not saying I'm going to play all 3 defenders at the same time, right? If I'm playing a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, I don't have to worry about that. But against like some of those teams, if we play with wing backs and they're more attacking, I think it could pay off to have Semedo and Marcel. Theoretically. Now, we could, in game week 7, switch to dropping Jota, who you have to play the percentages, is how I'm kind of looking at it. I played the percentages that having Diego Jota at 7.6, now 7.7, he's gone up in value, get in, against the likes of Crystal Palace and Leeds would lead to more than 6 total points. You have to play the odds with FPL, right? And he's got Brentford theoretically, if Firmino's still out and they're not heavily rotating, he should get at least 30 minutes and have a chance to score against Brentford, who, by the way, have looked pretty good. But then against game week 7, that's probably, you're going to make a change there because you've got Man City, Man United, West Ham even defensively have been all right. Same thing with Brighton. Brighton's given up some goals, but like we just talked about how good they've been. Like, so you miss out with him against Watford, but maybe on October 16th, that's obviously a couple weeks after game week 7 because the international break, Firmino might be back. So maybe you drop Jota, right? And then you pick up, like I thought about if I dropped Jota in one of the underperforming Wolves players, whoever has lost their spot after that loss, most likely, and pick up like a Rudiger or a James from Chelsea and somebody else, maybe a Kovacic. I know people have said Kovacic, but like he's had pretty good returns for Chelsea thus far this season and seems to play a lot. Someone also said the FPL videos go along with your rambling style, and maybe I should write this down more to where it's more segmented, but I kind of like doing it this way. So if you go back to the changes I made, +3 for Ramsdale in comparison, okay? But then here, with these 2 players, it's a -3 because the options we had with Dunk and Wan-Bissaka, sorry, would have given me 4 points. So that even, like these even out, okay? Who else did we take out? I'm blanking. We already had Cody. Dunk was the other one. Yep. Harrison obviously would have given us 0, and Dennis would have given us 6 points. Well, in contrast to that, right? We get 2 points, which is obviously more than Harrison. 8 points from Rafinha, which is a positive. And Bamford gives us 5 points versus 1 point. But again, you're not getting rid of Dennis for just one game, and you're not picking up Bamford for just one game. He's got good fixtures. I am thinking my original plan was game week 7 or 8 to sell Diego Jota and downgrade a defender to like a Livramento at 4.2 or a Shimikas back to 4.0/4.1, whatever he's at right now, and get Lukaku in. But I'm also kind of wondering, what would you think? Okay, let me pull up a different website here. Just one second. All right, this is FPLmania.com. You just put in your user ID, which is, if you go look at the points at your current game week, that's it. In the URL, it'll have the 7-digit user ID. It's all numbers. You copy that, you throw it into the submit team button, and this is how you end up. So what if we sold, I thought Marcel looked the worst of Semedo and Marcel. So you sell him, and you sell Jota, and you pick up Kovacic and James. That leaves you 3.6 in the bank, okay? Is it really that much worse? Like, here's my concern with Chelsea. Like, Lukaku, obviously very, very good. Very, very good. And I think the fixtures versus Ronaldo over the next 6 game weeks, 7 to 13, significantly better. But everyone knows Lukaku is like the main scoring threat. So I'm kind of curious if the likes of Havertz, Mount, Christian Pulisic, like all these players, Christian obviously hasn't played because he's been positive as well, could dig in a little bit into Lukaku's potential score. So like, would it be better to have a Kovacic and a James and then upgrade, use your 3.6 somewhere else? And I have some ideas around that. But is having Vardy, Bamford, and Antonio really that bad? It'd be different from the template. Vardy in game week 8 has Man United. And then Antonio in game week 11 and 13 has Liverpool and Man City. So probably by game week 10, you sell him. And bring in somebody else, but there's a bunch of, like, at that point, right, you could go Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you could go Callum Wilson if he's back, you could go Mount, throw Mount into the midfield if he continues to play a lot. It just kind of gives you some options. Now, obviously, if Vardy goes off the boil, then you sell Vardy and bring in Lukaku, in game weeks, 7 or 8 or something like that. I've stuck with Vardy. It's not been the template. The template thing is the positive thing. Like everybody does Ronaldo and Lukaku, or Bruno and Ronaldo, or whatever, right? So Vardy's been a little bit of a difference maker for me in my squad. But really, like if you look at the results, okay, again, he had 29 total and 30 the year before. And right now he's sitting on 4, and that's 5 games in. Now, and that's with, I think, Leicester playing quite poor, as you can imagine, based off their position in the table currently of 12th. So even though they're playing poor, Vardy's still getting results. So I just wonder, once they get, some of their injuries figured out and they kind of like gel as a squad from some of the chaos that they've had happen this season, could Vardy be a difference maker? Now, again, he gave you diddly squad against Man City and against West Ham, which is disappointing. But again, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Manchester United, you eat one there probably. Brentford, Arsenal haven't, in my opinion, been very impressive. Now they've had 2 clean sheets in a row. Leeds give up goals, we know that. And then you got Chelsea, which is a problem. Then Watford, Southampton, Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham even hasn't looked great. Everton. Like, you're in December at this point. So that's where I kind of go, well, I know the wild card was early, but I felt like even if I wild carded early, I could still get to Lukaku or Ronaldo if I really wanted to. And I think the players that I brought in, again, if I go here, right? Okay, you get game week 7. These 3, okay, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or one of, leave one of the Wolves guys out and then pick a goalkeeper. Now, you'd be relying on Trent and Salah against Man City, but I kind of can't feel like you can bench them. That might be a mistake, right? Versus going with, these 4. But again, I think that's survivable. And like, again, your 3 strikers, Vardy, Bamford, Antonio, fantastic FPL strikers. Game week 8, let's look at it. Okay, you do have Manchester United. Maybe consider dropping Vardy. I don't know. Southampton, Everton with a ton of injuries. Then you've got, okay, let's say you did a 4-4-2. Trent, James, Ayling, pick probably Semedo, and then any of these 4, and then 2. Or go James, Trent, Ayling, and then all 5 because you're playing Norwich with Basuma. I don't know, right? But it's not like devastatingly terrible. Game week 9, right? You got some leads. Now, they score a lot of goals, but they give up goals. So maybe you go Semedo, Ayling, James, Trent, if you don't want to play Antonio against Tottenham. But it's like, to me, it's not a glare. And you still, again, you have 3.6 in the bank that you can utilize. If you get an injury, you get another person that comes back from international break with a positive test, it gives you some flexibility. I also think having like pop the wild card is just, now I can stop thinking about it. Like, oh, is this the right decision? It doesn't matter. It's already happened now. So like, get over it. So here's what I'm looking at for game week 6 right now is assuming that Diogo Jota stays as a starter, or at least is going to play 30, 45 minutes. Maybe like they give him 60 minutes and Bobby is on his way back, but they really haven't said a whole lot about Bobby. You've got Sanchez in between the sticks. You've got Marçal and Semedo and Trent against Brentford, assuming Trent is also back. If he's not back, then we got some problems. I'm not really worried about Rafinha either, or Ayling. Like, it looked like they were precautionary. Ayling had a little bit of a muscle thing, but obviously if all 3 of these are out, then we got much bigger problems. Doucouré, I know, like, you brought him in, he gives you 2 points against Villa, but he has a goal and 3 assists thus far this season, and he's playing Norwich, which I think we all know means points, theoretically, if he plays. Now, Everton have got a lot of injuries. We got Salah, captain against Brentford. Antonio against Leeds as the vice-captain versus Vardy as the vice-captain right now, because I'm kind of thinking Antonio's going to be rested and, like, ready to prove a point after having missed the Man United game. Not that I think Vardy is a bad choice either against Burnley, although Burnley, typically it's like, they're going to be defensively stout, where Leeds is going to be defensively leaky because they're so attacking. And then Bamford against West Ham. That's where I'm sitting at right now, my friends. Again, looking at our leagues, 477th overall. I'm back to being third in the community league. Benedict Morgan has a 19-point lead on me, but a 1-point lead over Krish Dev with Ultra FC. It is still a tight race, so make sure, like, don't give up. You got, whatever, 33 weeks to go, my friends. But that's where I'm at right now. I'll come out with another video, most likely on Friday for Game Week 6. We'll know more information after the Carabao Cup and all the things that happen midweek. Injury updates, stuff like that. If you've enjoyed this, make sure you hit the like button, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Also, what are you doing with your squad? How's your squad looking? Have you popped your wild card yet? That's the comment. Leave a comment. Yes, I wildcarded. No, I didn't. Here's my plan. Let's see you in the comments. Have a good one. Bye-bye.